This week, a pivotal moment awaits Australia as the Albanese government's ambitious climate action plan for the next decade is set to unfold. The anticipation centers around their 2035 emissions reduction target, a key element that could redefine Australia's environmental trajectory long into the future. A look into climate risks. The first piece of news is expected to emerge on Monday, where the National Climate Risk Assessment will be unveiled. This document has been long awaited and promises to provide a comprehensive evaluation of the economic and environmental hazards stemming from the climate crisis. Reports from insiders claim that the findings are not just alarming, but profoundly unsettling, even for experts in the field. This risk assessment will feature alongside the introduction of a national climate adaptation plan, outlining a strategic framework designed to address our increasingly unpredictable climate conditions.
Jointly prepared by the Australian Climate Service and the Climate Change Department, the risk assessment has harnessed highly sophisticated modeling techniques to project future damages. This includes estimations on potential casualties from escalating heat waves, as well as the development of a geographical mapping tool that anticipates flooding risks in specific suburbs nationwide. Insiders suggest that given certain scenarios, vital infrastructure, such as electricity grids, transportation networks, agricultural production, and the financial sector, may find themselves tested beyond their limits. The critical emissions reduction goal. The most significant announcement will occur later this week, when the Albanese government unveils its 2035 emissions reduction target, anticipated to be revealed on either Thursday or Friday, pending final approval from the cabinet.
This declaration has faced numerous delays. It was initially expected by February, but concerns around gathering necessary information from the Climate Change Authority, a government body under the leadership of former New South Wales Liberal Treasurer Matt Keane, meant it was postponed until after the May elections. The 2035 target announcement is expected to coincide with a series of critical reports, including the Climate Change Authority's expert recommendations, a roadmap for achieving net zero emissions by 2050, and strategies for reducing pollution across 6 key sectors of the economy. These sectors encompass electricity and energy, transportation, industry, agriculture and land use, resources, and the constructed environment. New initiatives aimed at diminishing greenhouse gas emissions will likely be introduced in tandem with the new target, thus building upon previously established 2030 goals, which call for a 43% reduction from 2005 levels.
According to the latest annual emissions projections released in November, the government is poised to achieve a reduction of approximately 42.6%, narrowly missing its legally mandated target. The importance of setting targets. The implications of the 2035 emissions target extend far beyond Australian borders. It will be formally submitted to the United Nations as part of the country's nationally determined contribution concerning efforts to meet commitments made under the 2015 Paris Agreement. Climate Change Minister Chris Bowen has hinted that Australia may suggest a range for this target, rather than a singular figure. One of the critical components of the Paris Agreement mandates that this upcoming target must exceed the existing 2030 target in ambition. There can be no regression, while reflecting Australia's utmost potential in addressing climate challenges.
A consultation paper released by the Climate Change Authority in April 2024 concluded that a reduction of at least 65% and potentially up to 75% could be both ambitious and achievable if additional measures are enacted by governments, businesses, investors, and families alike. Since then, the authority has engaged with experts and various stakeholders, using advanced modeling to fine-tune its recommendations. It is believed the authority's board, which comprises both scientists and business leaders, finalized its position last week, with the report yet to reach government hand. The authority is tasked with evaluating what the best scientific guidance suggests Australia should do to maintain ambitions of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels.
Their analysis must also consider the international diplomatic landscape, the economics of feasible actions, the pace of technological advancements, and the societal willingness to implement those measures. From a scientific standpoint, various analyses indicate that Australia should aim for emission reductions in the range of 70% to 100%, effectively achieving net zero emissions by 2035. Additionally, neighboring Pacific Island nations have emphasized the necessity for the more developed Australia to adopt the most ambitious targets possible and immediately halt new fossil fuel projects. Research conducted by entities such as Climate Analytics and the Australian Conservation Foundation has provided detailed estimates on how to attain at least a 75% reduction target, a level many climate advocates deem necessary for credibility. Conversely, some experts like Frank Jotzo, director of the Australian National University's Centre for Climate and Energy Policy, argue that even a 65% target could be exceedingly ambitious, given it would necessitate halving pollution levels over the next decade. He posits that the effectiveness of the policies developed to support the target may ultimately take precedence over the target figure itself. Business organizations wield considerable political influence and exhibit a diverse spectrum of opinions. A coalition of around 500 businesses, including notable names like Fortescue, Atlassian, IKEA, and Unilever, is vocally advocating for a 75% reduction. In contrast, some stakeholders caution about the financial implications of aggressive climate action and are proposing a target in the 50% range instead. The Business Council of Australia has issued a subtle warning regarding targets in the 60% or 70% range, releasing modeling data that indicates an investment requirement of between $395 billion and $530 billion to meet a climate goal of 70%. Chapter 2. The landscape of climate action among developed nations presents a mixed narrative. The United States, which accounts for about 10% of global emissions, has stepped back from progressive climate measures, while the United Kingdom has set a 2035 emissions goal equivalent to a substantial 78% reduction from 2005 levels, with the European Union also expected to aim for the 70% range. However, Canada and New Zealand have opted for considerably lower targets at 45 to 50%, and 51 to 55% respectively. As for China, a major contributor of emissions globally, it has yet to establish targets comparable to those of earlier developing nations. Its current goal is to peak carbon pollution by 2030, although some analyses speculate that it may have already reached that peak, as the nation invests heavily in renewable energy while gradually reducing reliance on coal, despite the ongoing construction of new coal facilities. Attention is shifting toward what commitments China might unveil during the upcoming COP30 climate conference in Brazil this November. In a recent interview, Chris Bowen referenced a calculation from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, completed in 2021, which indicated that global emissions must decrease by 60% from 2019 levels by the year 2035. To maintain the 1.5 degrees C target. For Australia, this equates to a 68% reduction based on the 2005 baseline. However, it's crucial to note that global warming has progressed more rapidly than anticipated since then, and the 68% figure serves as an average across the globe. Countries like Australia, being more developed, will certainly need to contribute more robustly to the global effort to combat climate change.